a black waitress noticed a small, shivering boy in a wheelchair out in the pouring rain, and she didn't think twice. She got him inside, gave him food, and made sure he felt safe and sound. Little did she know, a billionaire was watching everything from across the street. You won't believe how this one act of kindness was about to turn her life upside down in ways she never could have imagined. The rain was really coming down that night, turning the sidewalks of Atlanta into one big, slippery hazard. It was way past closing time at Marley's Diner, and almost all the staff had already bolted, trying to get out of the storm. But Jasmine Turner was still inside, wiping down the counter after working a crazy 12-hour shift. She should have been gone by now, but she was too kind-hearted to just leave. That's why, when she looked out the window and saw this little kid in a wheelchair, shivering under the dim light of the Marley's Diner sign, she stopped dead in her tracks. The kid couldn't have been more than 10 years old. His dark hair stuck to his face, his little hands clutching onto this thin, worn-out blanket. His coat was way too light for the weather, barely keeping him warm. Who in their right mind would leave a kid out in this kind of weather? Jasmine threw the rag down on the counter and went to help. The diner door opened with a creak, and the freezing wind hit her like a ton of bricks. "Hey, sweetie," she called out real gentle, kneeling down beside him. "What are you doing out here, all by yourself?" The boy kinda jumped at first, his blue eyes wide and scared, like he didn't know if he should answer. "I'm waiting for my dad," he mumbled, barely loud enough to hear over the rain. Jasmine looked all around, up and down the street. Not a soul, except for the flickering glow of a pawn shop sign across the road, saying cash for gold. The only sound was the tires of some car far away, hissing on the wet street. "Where's he?" she asked, starting to get worried. The boy just shrugged and wrapped the thin blanket tighter around himself. Jasmine sighed and bit her lip. She'd seen this too many times, kids waiting for someone who wasn't going to show. She wasn't about to let this kid sit out here, cold and hungry. "Well," she said, "you can't stay out here in this mess." She smiled. "Come on inside with me, okay? It's warm, and I got something special for you." For a second, the boy hesitated, but then real slow he nodded. Jasmine carefully grabbed the handles of the wheelchair and wheeled him inside. The warmth of the diner hit them both right away, along with that nice smell of buttered toast and coffee. She wheeled him over to a booth near the radiator, and she put a fresh towel around his shoulders. Then she kneeled down to look him in the eye. "I'm Jasmine," she said, smiling warm. "What's your name, sweetheart?" The boy sniffled and squeezed the edge of the blanket. "Oliver." Jasmine nodded like she was approving. "That's a strong name. You hungry?" Oliver hesitated again, then nodded. She didn't need him to say another word. She was already heading to the kitchen, grabbing a loaf of sourdough. She sliced that bread like she'd been doing it her whole life, real smooth and easy. Before you knew it, she was putting a steaming plate down in front of him, grilled cheese, all golden brown and crispy, with a bowl of tomato soup on the side. Her grandma used to make her that when things were tough. "This one's on me," she said, tucking a napkin under his chin. Oliver's eyes got real big when he took his first bite. The cheese was all stretchy and gooey, and his face just lit up. "This is the best thing I've ever had," he whispered, like he couldn't believe it. Jasmine chuckled, watching him scarf down that sandwich. "Good food makes everything better," she said, trying to keep it light. But deep down, she was hurting. She knew what it meant when a kid was used to being hungry. And what she didn't know, couldn't know, was that someone was watching her from across the street. Across the street, a fancy black Rolls-Royce was parked in the dark, its windows so tinted you couldn't see in, just reflecting the diner's neon lights. Inside, Nathan Caldwell was sitting real quiet, his sharp, gray eyes glued to what was happening inside the diner. Nathan was 46 years old, and he'd built himself an empire, a tech company worth billions. He was all about control. He didn't believe in being sentimental. He believed in power, efficiency, and being ruthless. But here he was, watching and listening, thinking things over. Because that boy in the booth was his son. And the black waitress in that simple apron who just gave him a free meal? She had no clue that her little act of kindness was about to open doors she never even dreamed about. Nathan wasn't sure if he liked that, to be honest. But one thing was for sure, Jasmine Turner had just changed everything. Jasmine was wiping the last bit of tomato soup off Oliver's face when the diner door swung open. The cold air rushed in first, then this woman in jeans and a hoodie, her blonde hair hidden under a beat-up Braves baseball cap. Something about her just didn't feel right. It wasn't just her clothes. Plenty of people came in looking like that. No, it was the way she carried herself. Sharp, calculating, like she'd already figured out everything about the room before she even walked in. Jasmine had worked enough jobs and seen enough people to know someone who wasn't just there for the coffee. The woman looked right at Oliver. She tried to soften her face, kneeling down beside him, but it felt too fake, like she'd practiced it. "Hey champ, time to go," she said, all light and breezy. Oliver frowned, holding tight to his napkin. Jasmine dried her hands on her apron and folded her arms, watching the woman. "You know him?" she asked, trying to sound casual. The woman's smile didn't change, but she got a little stiff. You could see a flicker of hesitation. "Yeah," she said real smooth. "I'm his aunt." Jasmine didn't even blink. She turned to Oliver. "Is that true, sweetheart?" Oliver hesitated, just a split second too long. Jasmine could feel it in her gut. This wasn't his aunt. This woman was lying, plain and simple. Oliver swallowed, looking from Jasmine to the woman. "She's here for my dad," he mumbled. "I guess I have to go." Jasmine didn't budge. She'd been in this situation before. She'd seen too many times people just being ignored, pushed aside, forgotten like they didn't even matter. She could have pushed back, asked more questions, but she knew how that would go. A black woman getting too pushy, asking too much, and drawing the wrong kind of attention to herself. She knew how that usually ended. Jasmine's jaw clenched tight. She didn't have any real power here, but she could still do something. She turned around, walked over to the counter, and grabbed a chocolate chip cookie, wrapping it up in some wax paper. She slipped it into Oliver's little hands. "For the road," she said softly. Oliver's fingers closed around it, and for the first time that night, he smiled. "Thanks, Jasmine. You're the best." Jasmine forced a small smile back, but her chest felt all tight. As the woman wheeled Oliver towards the door, you could feel the tension in the air. And just before they stepped out into the rain, the woman glanced back. She didn't say anything, just looked at Jasmine. Jasmine knew what it was, a warning. The headlights of the Rolls-Royce flashed as the woman walked up. The back door swung open before she even knocked, and Nathan Caldwell got out. His big frame was silhouetted by the diner's neon sign, his gray eyes cold and unreadable. As soon as Oliver was safe inside, buckled up in the back seat, Nathan turned to the woman. "Well." The woman, Leah Foster, sighed and pulled back her hood. "She clocked me," Leah admitted. "Didn't buy the aunt story. Almost called me out." Nathan's face didn't change. "But she let him go," Leah added quickly. "She didn't have a choice. You know how it is, a black woman making a scene? She'd be the one in trouble, not me." Nathan's jaw tightened, but he didn't say anything. Leah crossed her arms. "She's not like the others," she said. Nathan already knew that. He'd seen it the second Jasmine stepped out into the rain, without even hesitating. The way she talked to Oliver, like he mattered, not like he was a pain in the butt. He'd spent his whole life watching people try to butter him up for his money. But Jasmine? She didn't even know who Oliver's dad was, and she helped anyway. That made her dangerous. Nathan reached for his phone and dialed. "Nora," he said when his assistant answered. "I need you to run a full background check on someone named Jasmine Turner, Atlanta. Find out everything you can and send it to me by morning." A pause. "Sir." Nathan's voice was quiet, but you could tell he meant business. "I need to know who she is," he said, "and what she wants." Then he hung up. Leah raised an eyebrow. "Is that really necessary?" Nathan slid into the back seat beside Oliver. "I don't believe in kindness," he said, buckling his seatbelt. Leah hesitated. "I believe in debts." "And you think you owe her something?" Nathan looked out the window. Jasmine Turner had no idea what she'd just gotten herself into, but she was about to find out. Jasmine had barely kicked off her shoes when there was a knock at her door. She froze. Nobody ever knocked on her door this late. A bad feeling started creeping up her spine as she walked toward the peef. And when she peeked through the peephole, her heart just sank. There was a man standing outside, wearing this expensive black coat, big shoulders, standing perfectly still. His gray eyes were sharp, like he was taking everything in, cold as ice. He didn't belong there. Not in that building, not in that neighborhood, not in her world. Jasmine kept her hand on the deadbolt. Who is it? There was a pause, then Nathan Caldwell. The name didn't ring any bells. What do you want? She asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Another pause, then quieter, controlled. To talk. Every instinct Jasmine had was screaming no way, but she was curious. So she slowly unlocked the door, just enough to get a good look at him. Nathan didn't even flinch. I don't know you, Jasmine said, real blunt. No, he agreed. But you know my son. Her heart skipped a beat. Oliver. Jasmine's eyes narrowed. She studied him carefully. The way his coat was still damp from the rain, but his shoes were spotless. This wasn't just money. This was power, the kind that could ruin someone without even lifting a finger. Oliver, she said slowly, you're his father? Nathan just barely nodded. I was across the street last night, he said. The chill she was already feeling went right through her. You were watching? I was. Jasmine let out a breath. So what? You're here to complain that I gave your kid some food. Nathan's eyes flickered, hard to read. No, he said real simple. Then, before she could say anything, he pulled an envelope out of his coat and put it on her beat-up kitchen table. Jasmine didn't move a muscle. She looked at the envelope. It was thick, expensive, the kind of paper that felt heavy, like whatever was inside was a big deal. She swallowed hard. What is that? Nathan's voice was even, like he was used to being in charge. A job offer. Jasmine blinked. A what? A job at Caldwell Industries. 6 figures, benefits, the whole shebang. For a second, Jasmine's brain just froze. Then she laughed, a sharp, disbelieving sound. You think I want to work for some rich, white dude who thinks handing out a check makes things square? Nathan didn't even blink. I don't think you want charity, he said. That's why I'm not offering it. The way he said her name made her chest tighten up. You don't even know me. Nathan looked right at her. I know enough, he said. I know you gave my son food without wanting anything back. I know you didn't treat him like he was a burden. And I know that's rare. Jasmine swallowed hard, trying to ignore how his words kinda shook her up. She looked back at the envelope, at how heavy and out of place it looked sitting on her table. And what exactly would I be doing at Caldwell Industries? Making coffee. For the first time, Nathan's mouth twitched, like he was trying not to smile. Something like that, he said, but it was gone as quick as it came. No, he said. You'd be working directly with me, handling negotiations, public relations. You're good with people. I need someone like that. Jasmine snorted. You don't need me, she said. You've got a company full of Ivy League grads who'd stab each other in the back for a job like that. Nathan's face finally changed a little. That's exactly why I don't trust Em. There was a long, heavy silence between them. Jasmine could feel the weight of his offer, like it was pressing down on her, messing with her pride and her exhaustion. 6 figures, that meant no more struggling to pay rent, no more living paycheck to paycheck, no more wondering how she'd make her last $20 stretch. Her mom's voice popped into her head. Never owe these people anything, baby. They don't give without taking something back. Jasmine's jaw tightened. Why me? For the first time, you could see something flicker in Nathan's eyes. Because you saw my son, he said, his voice getting lower, like it was hard for him to say. Not my money, not my name. You saw him. Jasmine's throat got tight. She looked at the envelope one more time. Then, real slow, she picked it up. I'll think about it, she mumbled. Nathan looked her over for a long moment, then gave a quick nod. Good. And just like that, he turned around and left. Jasmine stood there for a long time after the door closed, the envelope in her hands feeling heavier than it should. Because deep down, she already knew. She wasn't just going to think about it. She was going to say yes. Jasmine walked into Caldwell Industries, feeling everyone staring at her. Not like they were curious, but like they were judging her. She just ignored it, kept her head up, and walked straight to the elevator. Inside, Nathan was sitting behind this slick, modern desk, looking at his tablet. Without even looking up, he said, "You're late." Jasmine crossed her arms. "By 2 minutes." He finally looked up at her. "That's 2 minutes I don't get back." She sighed, already feeling tired of this. "You want me here or not?" Nathan leaned back a little. "That remains to be seen." The elevator doors opened before Jasmine could say anything back. Leah Foster walked in holding a tablet and said in a smooth voice, "Miss Turner, welcome to Caldwell Industries." Jasmine didn't miss how Leah barely looked at her before turning to Nathan. "I prepared the reports for Orion Group." Nathan took the tablet without saying a word. Leah kept going. "Would you like me to brief her on company protocols?" Nathan didn't look up from a tablet. "No, I will." Leah gave a little nod, then paused at the door. With one last look at Jasmine, she murmured, "Good luck." It didn't sound like she meant it. Nathan slid a file across the desk. "Orion Group wants to outsource jobs overseas." Jasmine flipped through the pages, her eyes narrowing. "That means layoffs. Thousands." Nathan's voice stayed calm. "I want you to do what you do best." Jasmine leaned back. "Charm them into having a heart?" Nathan didn't even blink. "No, I hired you because you understand something they don't." She tilted her head. "And what's that?" Nathan leaned in a little closer. "That people who have nothing to lose fight the hardest." Jasmine looked him right in the eye. For the first time, she realized this wasn't just a job offer. It was a challenge, and she wasn't about to back down. The conference room was colder than the rest of the building. Jasmine sat next to Nathan at the long, fancy table, across from 3 executives who barely even noticed she was there. The head guy, Gerald Langston, didn't bother to look up while he flipped through his notes. His voice was smooth and casual. "We're here to talk about the transition. I assume Caldwell Industries understands that this is purely a business decision." Nathan didn't flinch. "You mean gutting an American workforce?" Langston gave him a tight smile. "Nathan, it's nothing personal. It's just business." Jasmine had heard those words before. When her landlord jacked up the rent overnight. When her mom lost her job at the textile mill. When powerful men made decisions that messed up people's lives and called it strategy. She leaned forward, her voice steady, but with a little something extra behind it. "It's always just business until it's your job on the line." Langston snapped his eyes toward her. Nathan didn't say a word. He was just watching, seeing what would happen. Jasmine slid a document across the table. "This breaks down what happens when you move production overseas." Langston barely glanced at it. "Miss Turner, I don't." Jasmine cut him off. "You cut costs now, but in 3 years, labor costs are going to go up. Suddenly, your cheap workforce isn't so cheap anymore. You'll spend millions on restructuring, rehiring, and dealing with the PR nightmare when the headlines read," she tapped the document, "American workers betrayed for profit." Langston's jaw tightened. The other executives looked at each other. For the first time, they were actually reading the numbers. Jasmine didn't even blink. "This isn't just a guess, it's market analysis. So tell me, Gerald, how are you going to explain this to your investors when your short-term win ends up costing them money in the long run?" There was silence in the room. Langston picked up the document and read it over. For the first time, you could see his confidence shaking. Nathan didn't smile, but Jasmine could feel the change in the air. Langston put the document down. His voice clipped. "We'll revisit the proposal." Nathan gave a short nod. "See that you do." The meeting was over. As Langston and his guys left, Jasmine felt Nathan looking at her. She turned to him. "Well." Nathan studied her for a moment, then said in an even tone, "I knew I hired you for a reason." Jasmine smirked. "Damn right you did." And for the first time since she walked into Caldwell Industries, she felt like she belonged there. Months had gone by since the Orion Group thing, the meeting where she made it clear that she wasn't going to be ignored. That day, she hadn't just won a negotiation. She had earned her place in a world that wasn't really made for her. Nathan had been right about one thing. She was a fighter, and she had nothing to lose. Jasmine stood at the edge of a packed auditorium. watching Oliver Caldwell roll his wheelchair across the stage, clutching his diploma in his hands. She smiled, thinking back to that little kid, shivering outside the diner that night. The way he had held onto that grilled cheese like it was the best thing he'd ever eaten. Now, that same kid was smiling from ear to ear, his face full of a confidence that used to be hidden deep down. He reached Nathan first, shaking his dad's hand. Then his eyes found her. He rolled towards her, holding up the diploma like it was the biggest prize. "Told you I'd make it," he said, beaming. Jasmine folded her arms, acting like she wasn't impressed. "I don't know, kid. Pretty sure I said it first." Oliver laughed and tilted his head. "Are you guys gonna hug or something?" Nathan sighed. "Absolutely not." Jasmine scoffed. "God, no." Oliver just smirked and shook his head. "You two are impossible." Jasmine just smiled, but she felt something settle in her heart. Because this, not the fancy boardrooms, not the billion-dollar deals, was what really mattered. Years later, Jasmine stood in front of a new glass door, one that now had her name on it. Jasmine Turner, Vice President, Corporate Strategy. She traced the letters for a moment, letting it all sink in. Under her leadership, Caldwell Industries had changed. They started doing things the right way. They improved their labor policies, they started new mentorship programs. And they started working with companies that were owned by minorities, helping them grow. And today, she wasn't just standing in an office. She was at the grand opening of the Turner Caldwell Foundation, which would help give kids who didn't have a chance get an education and job training. The press was there, investors flew in, and everyone was giving speeches. But Jasmine wasn't really listening. She was focused on one person. Standing next to her, now a freshman in college, was Oliver. The boy she had once given a free meal to was standing tall, ready to build his own life. He bumped her arm. "So VP Turner, how's it feel?" Jasmine let out a breath and looked at the sign for the foundation, her name next to the Caldwell name. She had spent so much of her life just trying to get by. Now, she was building something that would last. She smiled. "Feels like just the beginning." Because kindness is an investment that always pays off. In this world where everyone's chasing money and power, it's easy to think that only the tough survive. That success only comes to those who play the game by the rules of money and influence. But Jasmine Turner's story shows something different. Sometimes, it's not power that changes lives, it's being kind. One little thing, a meal, a moment of caring, can start something bigger than you ever imagined. Jasmine didn't do it for the recognition. She didn't help Oliver because she wanted something back. She just did what was right. And because of that, life opened up doors for her that she never thought were possible. Have you ever had a moment where a small act of kindness changed your life or someone else's? Share your story in the comments. You never know who might need to hear it today. If this story touched you, hit that like button and subscribe to see more stories like this. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Your support is what makes these stories happen, and we appreciate every one of you. Until next time, keep spreading kindness.